I never thought I'd see someone use bug spray to kill slimes. Who would have guessed that just by killing one golden slime, a card worth 1 billion would drop? But Kaito didn't cash it in. Instead, he slapped it on his forehead and summoned a legendary goddess. And guess what? The goddess turned out to be a little girl. But this isn't some otherworldly fantasy. This is real life in Japan. Ever since mysterious labyrinths appeared around the world 13 years ago, the government has allowed anyone over 15 to apply to be an exploration investigator. Kaito wasn't about to miss out on that. But in the labyrinth, he only dared to fight slimes on the first level, and he's unknowingly killed 999 of them. The 1000th, a milestone, was a golden slime. Kaito killed it instantly with bug spray. Although this slime was rare, it didn't have much XP, just dropped a golden servant card. Checking his panel, it was a Valkyrie named Hilfi. Kaito was thrilled, even though he couldn't find any official info on her. He knew Valkyries were demigods from mythology, maybe even a rare card. He kept this quiet from everyone else. After selling the slime's magic core, he casually asked the receptionist how much a rare servant card could sell for. She told him that a divine rare card had once sold for 1 billion yen, which blew his mind. He walked out of the labyrinth in a daze and met up with his 2 best buddies. Since explorers' passes let them play for free in the amusement area outside, his buddies were also his first dungeon exploring teammates. The 3 of them quickly cleared the first level, but got demolished by goblins on the second level and left the labyrinth in disarray. After that, his buddies refused to go back, but Kaito kept at it, fighting slimes for 2 more years. That night in the bath, Kaito was torn about whether to sell the card. If he did, he could buy all new gear and weapons, and even a mansion with a swimming pool. But he was so conflicted that he couldn't sleep all night. The next morning on his way to school, he ran into Haruka, his childhood friend, coming out of her house. Haruka has always disapproved of Kaito going into the labyrinth, and Kaito had kept it a secret from her. When he bumped into his buddies, he quickly pulled them aside to catch up. Haruka must have sensed something but didn't expose Kaito. After a night of pondering without a decision, Kaito asked his buddies for advice. They told him to stop daydreaming and just get the rare card first. In the end, he decided not to sell it, and rushed to the labyrinth as soon as school was out. He found a secluded spot and began to summon the servant sealed inside the card. A giant angel flew out, then leaned down and wrapped her arms around Kaito. In the next second, the archangel vanished. In front of Kaito stood a little girl barely reaching his waist, who immediately started calling him Master. Seriously, talk about a major shrinkage. Yep, this little girl was Hilfi from the card. But Kaito wasn't thrilled about accidentally getting a loli. Instead, he was just mourning his lost 1 billion yen. Goodbye, my 1 billion yen. Goodbye, my gear, weapons, games, and swimming pool. But seeing how cute the little girl was, Kaito couldn't bring himself to scold her. Turns out, this little loli wasn't useless. She was great at finding slimes and even unleashed a massive spell right off the bat. Like using a cannon to swat a fly, Kaito recognized her strength. But after just one big spell, Hilfi complained she was hungry. Her food? The magic cores dropped by slimes. Kaito picked up a core and fed it to her by hand. I've got to say, feeding her was quite a healing moment. Because every time Hilfi used her powers to defeat monsters, she needed to eat a core to regain her strength. So it was like all the effort was for nothing. Kaito decided to let Hilfi handle finding the slimes, while he stuck to spraying them with insecticide. With Hilfi's help, he had a very productive day and even earned the title of Slime Slayer, which boosts all his stats by 50% when fighting slimes. That skill was kind of overkill. Sensing Kaito's frustration, Hilfi comforted him, saying it was amazing that he got a skill at all. Kaito felt a bit better, put Hilfi back into the card, and walked out with a bunch of magic cores. Kaito still didn't spill the beans about finding the servant card, just chalked it up to good luck. The receptionist just had to accept that explanation. That night, as Kaito reflected on his day in the labyrinth, he felt that with Hilfi's help, maybe he could try the second level now. He even dreamt about his childhood, watching an interview on TV with Haruka's dad, who firmly told the reporter that he would one day uncover the mysteries of the labyrinth. The next day, Kaito stepped into the labyrinth again, this time aiming for the second level to fight goblins. He wanted to be a hero like Captain Katsuragi. Since labyrinths appeared worldwide, TV shows about them have become quite popular. The most acclaimed is a love story set in a labyrinth featuring a brother and sister. The sister, in tears, vows to save her injured brother, pulls out a potion, recites the ad slogan, and then drinks the potion herself before giving it to her brother mouth to mouth. And that's where the episode ends. Stay tuned for the next one. Meanwhile, Kaito finally reached the second level, still shaking from his first trip into the labyrinth. Hilfi noticed and asked him if he was okay. Kaito said he was fine, but his body was obviously saying otherwise. Seeing this, Hilfi took his hand to give him some courage, which helped him chill out a bit. But they hadn't walked far when Hilfi sensed a goblin nearby. Kaito freaked out and turned to bolt. But then he had a flashback of Haruka's dad from his childhood, challenging him. "Kaito, aren't you supposed to go from an average Joe to a hero?" Slapping his face to psych himself up, he grabbed a wooden stick and nervously declared he was going to face off against the goblin. Luck was on their side because the first goblin they encountered was still asleep. Kaito asked Hilfi if she could handle it. Confidently, she said she's got this and ran off to wake the goblin. Just as she was about to unleash a big spell, Kaito stopped her. "If I can't beat this goblin here, how am I supposed to become a hero?" Of course, if things got dicey, he'd let Hilfi use her powers. Despite his big words, Kaito swung at thin air, not even seeing where the enemy was. The goblin, now thoroughly annoyed, charged at him. Luckily, Kaito had a shield to block the charge, and with a strong push, he sent the goblin flying, then swung his stick again. Unexpectedly, the goblin caught the stick barehanded. Kaito was knocked back, but as the goblin pounced, Kaito noticed the insecticide on his belt. He sprayed it right in the goblin's face, blinding it. Seizing the moment, he charged with his stick, but tripped over a rock at the last second. Luckily, the stick ended up right in the goblin's belly, killing it instantly. Overwhelmed with emotion, Kaito cried tears of joy, his fears finally conquered. Hilfi ran over to shower him with praises, saying how cool he was, and Kaito even leveled up and earned the title, Goblin Slayer. With his confidence boosted, Kaito continued exploring the labyrinth with Hilfi, and together, they took down several more goblins. Although Hilfi was a product of the labyrinth and knew nothing about it, she was dedicated to helping her master. Kaito reassured her that her support was enough for now, and they could learn about the labyrinth together. Today, Kaito had defeated several goblins, but only took 4 magic cores to cash in, feeding the rest to Hilfi. By the weekend, Kaito was so exhausted he just wanted to lie in bed all day. Still, he was stiff all over the next day. Haruka asked if he'd been to the labyrinth again. Kaito denied it, claiming he was just trying to get as strong as Schwarzenegger by training too hard. Haruka accepted his explanation without calling him out on his lie. Meanwhile, Kaito shared his goblin defeating story with his buddies and even talked about venturing deeper into the labyrinth. His friends, however, were more concerned about his romantic prospects, noticing Haruka's interest in him, which Kaito was completely oblivious to, too focused on slaying goblins. And so, Kaito's days were filled with classes and dreams of goblin battles. After school, Kaito headed straight to the labyrinth for some one-on-one time with the little Loli, Hilfi, and accidentally became a master of time management. Thanks to his efforts, his gear got a serious upgrade too, from a wooden stick to an iron one. The only constant? His insecticide. After another upgrade, Kaito even received a divine blessing, a power granted to those loved by the gods and their kin, boosting his stats during leveling based on their favor. Kaito was thrilled. He'd snagged a cheat skill, thanks to Hilfi. He immediately knelt down to thank her. Hilfi was just happy if her master was happy, feeling lucky to have Kaito as her master. Soon, they faced something other than goblins, a skeleton. Hilfi put up a barrier to block it while Kaito attacked from inside the barrier. Turns out, even the iron stick was useless against it. Kaito had no choice but to let Hilfi unleash her big move, which instantly took the skeleton down. This time, they got a red magic core. Hearing Hilfi say she was hungry, Kaito fed her the core, trying to convince himself it wasn't worth much. But when he checked later, it turned out to be worth over 2 million. Though he regretted it, he figured if Hilfi, who worked so hard for him, ate a 2 million worth magic core, so what? After comforting himself, Kaito started planning to explore the 3rd level, where multiple monsters could appear at once. To prepare, he decided to fight alone from now on to strengthen himself without relying on Hilfi's big moves. Hilfi agreed to his plan. Touched that he was considering her, feeling very happy. However, Kaito soon struggled through a tough battle, emerging from the labyrinth battered and forced to buy a healing potion. To make money, he reluctantly went back to fighting slimes, almost slipping up and letting Haruka catch on. That day, they encountered a rare red slime. Kaito and Hilfi teamed up and defeated it, unexpectedly finding a servant card of a Viscount-level demon. Kaito didn't hesitate this time and summoned it right away. No surprise, it turned out to be another little loli. This harem anime protagonist has the lowest EQ I've ever seen. After an angelic little girl, Kaito accidentally finds a demonic little girl named Rusharia, who is just as devilish. Kaito is in despair once again. He only likes beautiful women, not little girls, especially not sassy ones. Rusharia starts off by mocking Kaito, saying he seems unreliable and not very smart. She's right, but Hilfi disagrees. Rusharia explains that all demons are like this. The two little girls meet and immediately Rusharia asks Kaito for a magic core. Just then, Hilfi spots a slime, and Rusharia overkills it with a powerful spell, turning the weakest slime to dust. After consuming the magic core, she still wants more. Kaito, called stingy for not giving more, lets her kill a goblin with another brutal spell, turning it to dust. The magic core naturally goes to Rusharia, who finds the goblins tastier than the slimes and wants to continue exploring. Kaito stops her. The third floor's monsters group together, and they're unprepared today, planning to go tomorrow instead. Hilfi also advises Rusharia, saying Kaito is considering her safety. Reluctantly, Rusharia agrees. The next day, Kaito and the two little girls venture to the third floor, and Kaito has bought new weapons. They immediately encounter two hellhounds. Kaito misses his shot and freezes as the hellhounds charge at him. Hilfi quickly creates a barrier, and Rusharia finishes them off with a powerful spell, then demands more magic cores. Kaito tricks her into hunting more before rewarding her, forgetting Hilfi hasn't eaten. They then encounter several wild boars, which Rusharia instantly blasts away. One boar escapes, and Kaito finally hits it in the eye, but it gets back up and charges. Kaito collapses in fear, but accidentally kills it with a steel pin. Hilfi praises him, and Kaito levels up to 11. Rusharia immediately asks for her reward, leaving them with few gains despite many kills. On their way out of the dungeon, Kaito hears others planning to team up for the 6th floor and envies them. But then he thinks about his powerful companions and optimistically hopes to reach the 6th floor himself, smiling foolishly. His close friends can't help but tease him, as they worry about not getting into their desired schools. Suddenly Haruka approaches and asks Kaito where he plans to apply, mentioning she intends to go to Wanghua School and asking if Kaito plans the same. Kaito could only grit his teeth and say yes, but he still didn't take his studies seriously. After school, he went exploring the dungeon again with the two little girls and became increasingly biased. He only gave magic cores to Rusharia, who asked for them, ignoring Hilfi. When Rusharia landed the final blow, only she got to eat. When Hilfi did, both got to eat. This proved that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and Kaito didn't notice at all. That evening, he found his mother watching a TV drama about siblings exploring a maze. A newcomer arrived, and the sister was jealous and complaining. Kaito couldn't help but imagine Hilfi and Rusharia dueling. The next day on his way to school, he met Haruka and told her about his friends, Hilfi and Rusharia. Haruka thought he should have asked them directly. So, today in the dungeon, Kaito only took Hilfi, wanting to talk things over. Hilfi blushed, thinking he had something special to say, but it was about Rusharia. After much questioning, Hilfi admitted feeling less favored and wanted equal treatment. Kaito was clueless, wondering how he was biased. Hearing about the unequal core distribution and reduced interactions with him since Rusharia arrived, Hilfi just wanted to talk more with Kaito. Kaito, still puzzled, wondered if this was jealousy. Although unapologetic, he promised to treat Hilfi and Rusharia equally and talk more with Hilfi. Afterwards, he indeed treated them equally, praising both after every battle. Hilfi leveled up first, significantly improving her attributes and eagerly demonstrating her new strength by instantly defeating 3 monsters. However, one boar escaped. Hilfi raised a shield, and the boar couldn't break through. Rusharia was about to attack, but Kaito took the opportunity to shoot the boar himself. He gave Hilfi 2 magic cores, and none to Rusharia who hadn't acted. Seeing him change his biased ways, Hilfi bravely said she was still hungry and asked for another core. Her appetite had also increased after leveling up, which left Kaido feeling down. He hadn't realized that all the cores were thanks to the two little girls' efforts. Even the receptionist noticed Kaido was bringing in fewer cores lately. Feeling this was not right, Kaido only went to the first floor the next day, continuing to spray insecticide on slimes. The two girls cheered him on and helped detect the slimes' positions. The receptionist, thinking Kaido's abilities were being wasted on the first floor, suggested he try the fourth floor. Naturally, Kaido was also considering it. That evening, Kaido searched online for equipment, wanting to buy a brand new battlesuit. However, the high-end suits were too expensive to afford. Kaido decided he needed to earn some money first. Surprisingly, he encountered a special slime that day. Why do such people always get lucky? Kaido thought, feeling confident he could obtain another servant card. He had Hilfi and Rusharia use their powerful moves. But this time, no servant card dropped, only a magic orb. Still, Kaido was thrilled. With this orb, he could become the mage he dreamed of being. He immediately smashed it on the ground and gained water magic. Eager to test its power, he encountered a monster. Kaido had Hilfi create a barrier for him before he launched a water ball. It did no damage and only angered the monster. Kaido, frightened, collapsed on the ground, and Rusharia had to resolve the situation. But the little girl still praised him, comforting her master that being able to cast magic was impressive enough. Regretting his actions, Kaido wished he had just sold the orb. He sat dejectedly on a park swing that night and met Haruka. They went home together, with Kaido keeping his troubles to himself and Haruka pretending to be oblivious. Kaido sensed Haruka might be somewhat angry and wondered if she was jealous like Hilfi. How can a man admit defeat? But Kaido truly couldn't manage. Even controlling a small water ball exhausted him. However, after some training, he finally managed to shoot the water ball. Though the attack seemed as mild as tickling, he collapsed on his bed as soon as he got home, dreaming of his childhood. Kaido's dream was to become a hero like Captain Katsuragi. He could not give up. The next day, he trained to turn the water ball into a water cube, and succeeded on his first try. Then he formed other shapes, but failed due to exhaustion. When he went out, exhausted, he bumped into the big sister from a previous adventure. She showed a bit of concern, the first to see someone so worn out from a dungeon. They were greatly inspired, deciding to defeat more monsters than the day before. Because of his exhaustion, Kaido fell asleep in class, mumbling about his special training when the teacher woke him. After class, his friends curiously asked about his training, and Kaido honestly explained. Just then, he saw Haruka and quickly pretended he was training and dancing. Haruka believed him, telling him not to overdo it and that he could dance for her once he learned. Kaido continued his special training, eventually mastering the water ball technique, earning praise from two little girls. Despite defeating many monsters, he gained little experience, suggesting the third level's monsters were too weak for him. So, he decided to move to the fourth level. But first, he bought some equipment. Seeing Kato in a tight suit, Rusharia commented on its ugliness. Kato felt she didn't recognize its value. It was a high-end combat suit, its nanocarbon tubes protecting him entirely, even against sharp arrows. Besides, it included a bracelet enhancing magical effects, boosting his frail water ball technique. Hilfi was very supportive, praising him as a great shopper. Unfortunately, Rusharia didn't care at all. Soon, the trio reached the fourth level, enjoying its better vegetation compared to the barren lower levels, but also facing greater hidden dangers. Upon arrival, Hilfi sensed a strong presence, and a giant cockroach emerged. The two girls, terrified, clung together, blasting the cockroach. Kaido, hearing the commotion, followed, nearly getting caught in their attack. Hilfi, frightened, jumped into her master's arms, crying about her fear. Rusharia remained aloof, while Hilfi felt guilty for running away in fear, though Kaido could hardly blame her. Thanks to the duo, the team reached the fifth level, collecting many magic cores. Despite Rusharia claiming she wouldn't eat them, her body betrayed her liking for the distasteful cockroach magic core. The monsters on the fifth level were normal. Kaido immediately shot an arrow, but it went straight through, attracting the monster's attention, which then blasted a wave of sand. Luckily, Hilfi quickly put up a protective shield. It seemed physical attacks were ineffective against these monsters, leaving only Rusheria to rely on. Rusheria's powerful move burned both monsters to death. Now Kaito's skills were useless. To explore the 5th level, they had to depend on Rusheria and Hilfi, but neither wanted to eat the cockroach magic cores. Kaito had to lead the girls on a temporary retreat. On the way back, they discovered an unusual wall. Only Hilfi sensed something off, while Rusheria felt nothing. Hilfi struck it with lightning, revealing a secret passage. They entered unprepared, and Rusheria immediately triggered a trap. An arrow shot towards Kaito, causing pain without piercing his clothes. Kaito then reminded them to watch their steps. Rusheria stepped on another trap, but Kaito, experienced, dodged it only to be shocked by electricity. However, he wasn't seriously hurt. After enduring these hardships, the trio finally reached a door. Kaito thought about leaving, but the two girls disagreed. Unable to push it open, Hilfi simply blew it up. Inside, 2 monsters awaited them, an ogre and a slime. There was no escape now. Kaito instructed Rusheria and Hilfi to attack together. Surprisingly, their powerful attacks didn't decrease the monster's health. Perhaps magic attacks were ineffective. The ogre charged, but Hilfi's barrier held. Kaito shot an arrow into the ogre's thigh, confirming that physical attacks were effective. He continued shooting wildly, but even after all arrows were used, the ogre didn't fall. Kaito regretted trying to save money earlier. The ogre kept hitting the barrier, while Rusheria struggled against the slime. Kaito relied on his magical bracelet, but the water ball it produced froze into an ice block. He shot ice blocks at the ogre. Although powerful, 3 shots depleted Kaito's magical energy. He needed more power to defeat the enemy. Recalling his special training, Kaito produced an ice spike, hitting the ogre's eye. He shot another, finally killing it. Then, he took out a shield to help Rusheria, blocking the slime with it while Hilfi used a lightning spear. Unexpectedly, the slime's body was corrosive. Fortunately, Hilfi unleashed a powerful move, blasting away half of the slime's body, but its health barely decreased. Kaito was about to retreat, but then, images of his idol appeared in his mind. He wanted to be heroic, so he charged forward again. He dodged the slime's tentacle attacks and sprayed it with 2 bottles of insecticide, which proved quite effective. Hilfi supported him by opening a protective barrier. After the first 2 bottles were empty, Kaito used 2 more bottles of a premium version. The slime's health quickly depleted and disappeared. It was a truly exhilarating battle. After the fight, Kaito used a healing potion. Both Rusheria and Kaito leveled up, and Kaito gained a new skill, Super Slime Slayer. Such a formidable creature dropped a rare magic core, and surprisingly, a rare item, a magic sword that looked like a steak knife, albeit too small. Kaito took the magic core to the front desk for appraisal and shared his adventure of entering the hidden labyrinth. The core was indeed valuable. The lady confirmed Kaito's strength and invited him to participate in next week's event, a challenge to explore the 7th floor and a social gathering. Kaito accepted and decided to quickly tackle the 6th floor. Kaito teamed up with the same adventurers he met before for an exploration event. The 4 of them held hands and were teleported directly to the 7th level. Before entering, they even stopped at a convenience store for supplies. Kaito was the only one laden with bags because the other 3 had magical bags that could store everything, each worth as much as an apartment, which Kaito couldn't afford. The 3, being rich heiresses, effectively made Kaito their companion. Once ready, they set off. The main creatures on the 7th level were golems. Before encountering any monsters, they met a team of cleaners who helped keep the dungeon clean. Among them, Airi had the highest level at 18, while Hikari and Miku were level 15. Kaito was 1 level higher than them. Just as they were discussing this, a pile of rocks nearby formed a golem. Airi took the lead, orderly issuing commands and asking Kaito to cover her. She charged in and struck the golem's weak spot with her spear in 2 moves, leaving no chance for the others to act. However, a second golem, this one bronze, appeared shortly after. This time, Hikari took center stage, overwhelming the enemy with a spell. Miku mainly relied on her summoned beasts for combat, with Airi delivering the fatal blow. The 3 coordinated seamlessly, leaving Kaito doing nothing but effectively becoming a war correspondent. Then a 3rd golem appeared quickly. Kaito shot an arrow, which was deflected. Miku rushed to protect the mage Hikari while Airi, wielding a long machete, leaped forward and struck the iron golem, causing no damage. Meanwhile, Hikari prepared a spell, firing a fireball that failed to reduce the golem's health, even knocking back a small summoned beast. Kaido was out of options. Just as he was about to summon two little lolitas, a small knife suddenly dropped. Remembering it was from a previous battle, Kaido checked and found that the knife could inflict damage based on imagination. Deciding to take a chance, he asked Hikari to hold the enemy with magic while Airi distracted it. Kaito sneaked behind the iron golem, imagining the knife piercing through it, and it actually went in. He then imagined the golem exploding, which it did. This, he realized, was a true artifact, even more useful than the two little lolitas. After leaving the maze, the three girls praised Kaido's weapon for its effectiveness. They were surprised to learn that it was a dropped item. Seizing the opportunity, Kaido asked Miku about her summoned beast, noting he had never seen it on screen. Miku explained that followers can't be captured on camera, which is why the guild never questioned Kaido about the two little girls he was with. Although the event had ended, Airi and the others still wanted Kaido to continue teaming up with them. They planned to rush to the 11th floor, where the second teleport gate was located, but Kaido politely declined. He needed to release Rusheria and Hilfi, fearing he might be misunderstood as forcing the young girls to follow him, which could lead to legal trouble. Seeing Kaido's reluctance, the three girls suggested he think it over. Days later, Kaido found an opportunity to explore the dungeon alone. Upon entering, he immediately released the little girls. They both confronted him. Even Hilfi, who usually didn't mind teaming up with others, was upset to hear how affectionately Kaido called her name. Rusheria insisted on being called Lucy. Kaido felt proud inside, recognizing the jealousy. After dealing with the two little girls in the dungeon, Kaido faced his childhood friend, Haruka. She asked how his dance practice was going, and Kaido replied it was fine. Haruka then invited him to go shopping with her that weekend. Kaido happily accepted. After she left, two of his close friends appeared, asking if he was planning a date with the beautiful girl. Kaido modestly said it was just shopping, but he shared his experiences teaming up with the three beauties in the dungeon, causing his friends to regret not staying in the team. On the weekend, Kaido went to Haruka's house on time and they headed to the mall together. Haruka also casually invited him to a movie next time. In the women's clothing section, Haruka tried on various outfits. Kaido thought all looked good, but if he had to choose, the one she was wearing was the best. So Haruka purchased it, and they went to the park, where they rode a boat together. A perfect date. But Kaido reminded himself not to get carried away. Haruka wouldn't really be dating him. Then, noticing his physique seemed stronger, Haruka asked if it was from dance practice. Kaido agreed, and they quietly enjoyed their weekend, even exchanging milk teas, which was like an indirect kiss. Unaware, Kaido didn't realize this as their date neared its end. Haruka mentioned wanting to visit a building near the dungeon where her father worked. He had promised to return for dinner that day, but hadn't yet, which is why Haruka disliked Kaido visiting the dungeon. Yet, Kaido always aspired to be a hero like her father. Kaido now has a divine weapon and can finally show off in front of the two little girls. The dagger changes at his will, making any enemy manageable. Rusheria quickly notices that Kaido's change must be due to a woman. Kaido ends up telling them about being invited by a group of three girls, which Rusheria misunderstands as him not wanting to share magic cores with them. Kaido quickly assures that he will not team up with the trio, but Hilfi surprisingly agrees, understanding that teaming up enhances Kaido's strength. Hearing this, Rusheria has nothing to say, and they decide Kaido will only team up with the trio on weekends, spending other times with Rusheria and Hilfi. Although it's decided, Kaido hesitates to call Eri back. However, he receives a call from Haruka first, who says she has something to tell him. Before she can speak, Kaido asks for advice on calming nerves, pretending it's for two friends scared to call girls. Haruka shares a childhood story about her father helping her relax before a piano performance by massaging her face. Kaido tries the same, finding it surprisingly effective, and then hangs up, still puzzled about the purpose of Haruka's call. After calming his nerves, Kaido quickly calls Airi, proposing to team up only on weekends. She agrees immediately since they are all students and usually free only on weekends. The weekend arrives, and the four meet in the dungeon. They soon encounter four golems. Kaido claims he can take on 2 by himself, while the other 3 handle the rest. Hikari uses magic to trap the golems. Miku summons a beast, and Kaido transforms his dagger into an ice blade and charges, shattering one golem and swiftly defeating another. Turning around, he sees Irie finishing off their second golem. Irie comments on Kaido's apt leadership, noting it doesn't seem like he often solos. Kaido quickly changes the subject, praising Irie's swordsmanship. Soon, Kaido's stomach growls, and they find a spot to eat their packed lunches. The quality of the lunch surprises Kaido, making him wonder what they usually eat at home, realizing they are not in the same class. However, that's unimportant as next time they plan to tackle the 8th level. Kaido gathered strategies in advance and knew the 8th level had many aquatic monsters. He wore a life jacket with magic resistance, which cost him a lot. On reaching the 8th level, Miku's contracted beast detected a monster near the water. As they approached, the beast stopped and a salamander monster immediately emerged, dissolving Kaido's life jacket with a blob of slime. Luckily, Miku shot it dead with a crossbow, a gift from Kaido. They encountered more aquatic monsters, and Kaido accidentally fell into the water. Eri reminded him that the water wasn't deep. The earlier monster was turned into grilled squid by Hikari. They fought smoothly afterward, even catching a tuna. However, overwhelmed by the number, Kaido extended his dagger with ice magic, wildly swinging at flying tunas until he drained his magic power and received a girl's lap pillow treatment. Upon waking, his mana was restored with a mana recovery item, as his swinging had harvested many magic cores. Suddenly, the small contracted beast alerted them to a huge creature emerging from the shallow water. A large dinosaur, typically found in deeper levels, frightened them into running, but the dinosaur caught up. The intense vibration blocked their path with debris. Kato instructed Hikari to use magic to restrain it while he distracted the enemy, and Airi attacked. Hikari turned the ground to mud, but the dinosaur was too large to control, and its attacks didn't affect its health. Kato's dagger did penetrate, imagining the dinosaur's body exploding, but the damage was too low. It only temporarily fell, allowing Airi to stab its forehead with a long sword, causing pain and throwing her off. Airi passed out and couldn't stand up again. At this point, Kaido had to summon Rusharia and Hilfi. As the dinosaur targeted Miku and Hikari, Kaido quickly summoned the little girls with 2 cards. On their arrival, he ordered them to defeat the dinosaur. Rusharia and Hilfi used powerful moves to easily handle it. Rusharia, seeing the girl by Kaido's side, wasn't surprised at all, already knowing it was a woman. At that moment, Miku suddenly rushed over and hugged Hilfi because the little angel was just too adorable. Hikari also liked the little devil, Rusharia, and brightly asked to touch her hair. True to her tsundere nature, Rusharia couldn't refuse. Kato explained to them that these 2 were his servants. Airi was shocked, exclaiming, "You actually have 2 servants and they're both little girls." However, Miku and the others didn't mind at all, and wanted to take Rusharia and Hilfi to bathe together to bond. During the bath, Miku stayed close to Hilfi, while Hikari favored Rusharia. Despite her tsundere attitude, Rusharia couldn't really refuse their requests. As the girls got cozy together, Kaito resignedly bathed the small contracted beast. After leaving the dungeon, Miku and Hikari were picked up by their families, leaving only Kaito and Airi. Noticing Airi's envious gaze, Kaito recalled her fainting words during the dinosaur fight. Become a hero. It turned out Airi had always wanted to be a hero, which is why she became an explorer. Kaito felt a connection, as he was similar. Then, Airi invited Kaito to her university's open day event that weekend. Surprisingly, not only was Airi from a wealthy family, but she also attended a prestigious school, the very school Haruka aspired to attend. Encouraged by his close friends, Kaito asked Haruka to join them. Haruka immediately smiled brightly. On the weekend, she wore the outfit Kaito had helped her choose, and together they headed to the school. Today, Kaito and Haruka are visiting Oka School, which feels almost like a date. As soon as Kaito thinks this, he shakes his head furiously, reminding himself not to get ahead of himself. Sitting across from him are 2 glaring third wheels. Noticing Kaito's attention drawn to a dungeon advertisement, Haruka asks if he misses not being able to go to the dungeon. Kaito quickly clarifies that spending the open day with Haruka is the best way he could spend his weekend. Upon arriving at Oka School, All four are amazed. It truly is a school for the elite, evident in its luxury. Walking along the tree-lined paths, Haruka can't help but express hope that in 2 years, they might be walking under the cherry blossoms together. Kaido imagines this too, but quickly snaps out of it, reminding himself that he must first pass his exams. He has been telling himself not to read too much into things, yet Haruka's hints are quite clear. Still, he remains clueless. Kaido first introduces them to Irie, making it clear that Haruka is not his girlfriend, but just a childhood friend. Irie lets them explore on their own, secretly relieved. Later in the academic building, Kaido's friends grill him on how he knows such a beautiful big sister. He accidentally mentions meeting in the dungeon, prompting Haruka to give a kind smile and remind Kaido not to bring up the dungeon again. Immediately after, his friends drag him away, regretting their earlier decision to leave the dungeon group, and remind him again to avoid mentioning the dungeon in front of Haruka. Kaido agrees. The group then visits classrooms and various clubs, even a small movie theater. Eventually, they rest in the courtyard, already fantasizing about the school. Sadly, among the four, only Haruka has good enough grades to potentially get in. If Kaido wants to attend the same school, he'll need to study hard. Seeing his determination, Haruka is reassured. However, the school's tuition is expensive. Kaido almost mentions earning money in the dungeon, but covers his mouth and suggests working part-time instead. Their friends tactfully leave, giving Kaido and Haruka some alone time. Before long, Miku and Hikari arrive, and the friends return, eager to introduce themselves to the pretty girl. Miku and Hikari think Haruka is Kaido's girlfriend, which he immediately denies, not noticing Haruka's annoyance. Seeing their good relationship, Haruka asked how they met. Kaido was thinking about how to evade the question when the two just told the truth. Haruka smiled kindly again. At that moment, Irie came over, having finished her tasks, and invited them to have lunch together at the cafeteria. That incident was glossed over. To their surprise, even the cafeteria was luxurious, offering a table full of dishes for less than 2,000 yen, with free refills on drinks. Most importantly, the food was delicious. After a hearty meal, Kaido and Haruka went to refill drinks for everyone. Meanwhile, the two good brothers flirted with the girls. Blondie made the girls laugh out loud and shared that he used to train with Kaido. Then they talked about funny stories from their training days. Although they had only been to the dungeon once, they often visited the dungeon theme park. While chatting, Kaido and Haruka returned. Haruka looked displeased. She couldn't understand why everyone liked the dungeon so much. In the afternoon, Irie simply led them on a tour of the school, which included a swimming pool. Kaido remembered how Haruka had saved him from drowning when they were children. Later, when a stray dog threatened him, Haruka saved him again. Listening to these childhood stories made Hikari feel gloomy, while the brothers were busy inviting the big sister to go to the amusement park next time. Then, they went to the sports field. Hikari, too preoccupied with Kaido, accidentally missed a step. Fortunately, Kaido caught her smoothly. He was reminded to put her down quickly, but Hikari was slow to recover. Just then, a soccer ball flew towards them. Kaido leapt up and kicked it back, hitting the net perfectly. Miku was instantly charmed. After exploring enough, Irie suggested visiting the dojo because she was restless all day and wanted to show off her skills in front of Kaido. She began performing with a large sword, earning applause from everyone, but Irie only had eyes for Kaido. She seemed to understand what her feelings truly were. Haruka noticed her gaze, but said nothing. Finally, they exchanged contact information, planning to hang out again. After they left, the three young ladies immediately felt lonely, wondering why today's ride was so slow to arrive. On the way back, the two brothers decided to dive back into the dungeon with Kaido. Haruka couldn't really complain about their decision, simply saying, "If you guys want to grind, go ahead." However, Kaido was determined to study hard so he could attend the same university as Haruka. Yet, Haruka asked him which of the three he liked. Kaido said he didn't like any of them because his heart belonged to someone else, promising to reveal that person's name to Haruka one day. But Haruka noticed that Kaido calls everyone by their first name, except for her, whom he addresses by her surname, which made her storm off home angrily. Meanwhile, Kaido soaked in the bathtub, wondering how he had upset Haruka, convinced that jealousy wasn't the cause, as it wouldn't make sense for her to be jealous. However, Hilfi and Rusharia, whom he had ignored all day, might actually be feeling neglected. The next day, Kaito hurried to the dungeon to call them out. Facing the visibly upset little girls, he calmed them down by giving each 3 magic cores. Suddenly spotting a colorful slime behind them, he quickly warned Rusharia and Hilfi. Impatient, they turned and used a powerful move to deal with it swiftly. Kaito ended up giving each girl 10 magic cores before picking up the items dropped by the colorful slime, among them a pair of telekinetic gloves capable of wielding invisible forces. Unsure of their power, Kaito tested them by the lake, but nothing happened until he punched towards the water. Although his fist didn't touch the water, ripples appeared. However, this seemed ineffective against wild monsters. Kaito then tried wielding a dagger with the glove on, and to his surprise, the dagger also gained the invisible force, cutting through water as if slicing through air. It seemed that combining it with other skills could actually be quite useful. At that time, Eri and the other 2 girls arrived. Kaito told them he really wanted to pass the Oka exam, so he needed to study hard. Eri offered to tutor him, and Miku and Hikari also wanted to join. Kaito also brought Haruka along. Seeing how close the 4 of them suddenly became, Rusharia and Hilfi felt jealous. Though they didn't know why, Kaito quickly gave them magic cores, instantly winning over the 3 girls' hearts. Today was their first time exploring the 9th level. Not long after they started, Hilfi sensed a powerful monster ahead. Still, they decided to move forward, planning to run if they couldn't handle it. They then encountered a huge 2-headed beast. Rusharia was surprised to see it there, as it seemed beyond their ability to handle. Before they could flee, the beast spotted them. Hilfi immediately put up a barrier, and Eri and the others readied their machine guns. Hikari used magic to trap the beast, and Rusharia went all out with her attack. However, the enemy was resistant to fire, and Rusharia's attack did no damage. Instead, the beast unleashed a fiery breath. Although Hilfi's barrier reduced the damage, it couldn't stop the heat. Rusharia then used wind magic, and Miku's small contracted beast also attacked, but they caused no significant damage. Kaito then rushed out to distract the 2-headed beast, giving Rusharia a chance to hit its belly with her powerful attack. Even so, their firepower was still insufficient. Kaito had Hilfi and Rusharia attack together, hitting the beast with 2 powerful moves, which only enraged it further. Kaito seized the moment to slash one head's throat with a water blade, then released an ice ball to counter the other head's breath. Temporarily, neither head could breathe fire. They charged forward with renewed vigor and finally defeated the 2-headed beast. However, Hikari and the others were exhausted. Kaito gave each of the 2 little girls 3 magic cores. But why was the 2-headed beast there? Just then, Hilfi sensed another strong presence. This time, a Minotaur appeared, a demon like Rusharia. They were only on the 9th level, yet demons were already appearing. Perhaps the 2-headed beast was the Minotaur's pet. The Minotaur showed great strength from the start. Fortunately, Hilfi quickly put up a barrier and they attacked from within. Despite their efforts, the enemy didn't lose a drop of blood. With no other choice, Hilfi joined the attack. Once the barrier was down, Hilfi and Rusharia attacked together, but it was still ineffective. The Minotaur then thrust his sword at Kaito. Thankfully, Eri blocked the sword in time, but was thrown against a wall. Kaito instinctively raised his dagger to block, which caused the enemy's sword to shatter upon contact. The Minotaur was caught off guard. Kaito quickly formed an ice shield, but it was shattered by a few punches from the enemy, leaving him unable to stand. The 2 little girls were very angry. While Rusharia and the others attacked, Kaito quickly drank a potion and devised a new strategy. After whispering to Miku, she charged forward with her machine gun and a small contracted beast. Simultaneously, Kaito sneaked behind the Minotaur and stabbed him with a dagger, imagining the Minotaur exploding. Unexpectedly, this did not kill the Minotaur. It healed itself and then knocked Kaito away with a punch, also defeating the others. Rusharia stepped forward to protect everyone, but couldn't withstand the attack. As the enemy approached, Kaito desperately thought of a strategy and checked Rusharia's panel. He let her use a skill that temporarily boosts her attributes by consuming the contractor's blood, despite the continuous drain on his life. Trusting Rusharia, she stood up again and transformed from a loli to a mature lady, rendering the Minotaur's attacks ineffective. Rusharia, now a Viscount-level demon, cast a high-level spell. The Minotaur was shocked, as such a spell was beyond a Viscount-level demon. The next second, it was completely annihilated. The crisis was over. Rusharia eagerly showed Kaido her transformed appearance, but Kaido, struggling to keep up, quickly praised her before collapsing. Rusharia then deactivated her skill, and Kaido's panel showed several new abilities, preparing him better for future battles. The other three also leveled up. Exhausted from the day, Kaido checked the loot to prepare for their return, starting with the largest magic core dropped by the two-headed monster and a servant card from the Minotaur. Since Kaido contributed the most in both battles, he kept the card. However, with a demon already in the team, Rusharia urged him to sell it. Kaido instead summoned the demon, turning the Minotaur into a little boy who immediately started calling him Master. Named Belria, the boy expressed a desire to always be with him, which Kaido regretted not selling the card, but appreciated having someone to help him bathe. Kaido clearly disdained the boy, a stark contrast to his attitude towards the two little girls. Yet Belria adored his master. The four then handed the green magic core to the receptionist, who was amazed they had defeated the two-headed monster, suggesting a need for an investigation team, as such a creature shouldn't be on the 9th level. The core was valued at 24 million yen, a trivial amount for the three wealthy girls who were willing to let Kaido keep it all. Afterward, they dined together, and Eri also taught Kaido how to file personal taxes. Now in possession of 3 servant cards, Kaido truly felt like a winner in life.